Well, if things couldn't get any better this week, what do we have here? Andy Dalton, put some respect on the son of a gun's name. Like, he did what many thought was going to be an insurmountable task. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, I was one of the doubters. I just didn't think that, replacing Bryce Young with Dalton was gonna change anything. I didn't think that was gonna do much. Well, I guess I was delusional. Like, it is what it is. Turns out, I'm a fraud. I went into this game with no expectations. Like, you can't have that many expectations if you're rooting for the Panthers. Look at what happened in the past season. But it turns out that Dr. Dalton, yes, the doctor, because whatever I saw was a damn clinic, was just, he's just football Jesus, I guess. If you're slow with the news, the Carolina Panthers, yes, the Carolina Panthers just defeated the Las Vegas Raiders 36-22. I have a friend who's a Raiders fan. We play on the same soccer team together, and he dropped to his knees when he looked at that score. That was crazy. Bro was on his knees praying to Jesus after what he saw was happening to his team. Like, we saw, Dalton throw for 3 touchdowns and 300 plus yards. Like, you're making this guy look like prime Dan Marino out there. Like, what the heck just happened? And if you're a Raiders fan, suck it. Because imagine losing to the Panthers. Like, y'all are trash. Like, it's unbelievable. And now you bet. Being a little bit more serious here, there's going to be a lot more talk about Bryce Young and his play because, we just saw a backup quarterback that nobody knows the name of put up a fire performance with the roster not known to be that great. And, that's not a good look, is it? Now, before I go into all of that talk, let's just go into the game, give a recap, and also my thoughts on the entire game. I'm late, I've had a very busy week grinding out my midterms, all that stuff, but now I'm free, I'm here, and, this is music to my ears. Like, I'm genuinely happy, because on the other hand, I saw the 49ers just degenerate, through whatever degenerate play they had and just completely bottle it at the last seconds while my Panthers, this is the reason why I'm a Panthers fan, just won an incredible game. Like, it is the difference. So anyways, this is the actual game analysis. So they had a great first drive. They managed to score. Hubbard gets the touchdown, and I'm not gonna lie, it is a check down touchdown, but Dalton just looks better in the game than Young. He just far quicker. He just reacts to stuff faster. He goes through his reads seemingly, at a much higher rate than Young does. And, he gets the ball out quick. I guess he understands that he can't hold on to it too long. Otherwise, the opportunities go out and they get the touchdown. So now it's 7-0. The defense managed to force a 3-and-out. You're going to see a very common theme in this game. It's that the defense actually really shows up today. Back on offense, there's kind of a bad throw. Hubbard just continues to go off. In the past, 2 games, I actually think, this guy is pretty good. He seems to, get a decent amount of yards per carry. He's actually a decent running back. There's a slant that doesn't work. He throws it across the middle very quickly. There's good coverage on the play by the defense, and, they have to punt. It's good coverage. Sometimes not everything goes your way. It is what it is, right? Now, the defense, unfortunately, here gives up a huge throw. The safeties and corner just get completely dusted. It's just a bad penalty, and they give up a touchdown. Unfortunate, 7-7. Not the best coverage. Okay, this is one of the one bad spot in this game. Now, on offense, Chuba Hubbard, my GOAT, he's just absolutely working out there. He's just a workhorse. And I believe Dalton gets sacked. 79 gives it up. But it works out because Dalton actually gets a huge throw to Deontay Johnson, who was spectacular this game, by the way. And he gets a good yard. He gets a good catch. There's a good amount of gain of yards, and there's a great throw from Dalton to eventually get the touchdown. So, in 3 drives, they managed to get 2 touchdowns. And I don't even know if the Panthers scored a singular touchdown in the last 2 games. When was the last time they scored a touchdown? And this guy manages to get 2 in like the first 3 drives? Amazing. Now, what happens next? Oh, so the Panthers managed to stuff out the run. It seems like throwing the ball doesn't really work it. And honestly, I'm more focused on the Panthers, but what the heck was the Raiders coach like calling here? Like, this was such a degenerate call. Like, you call a run on a 3rd and 7, and then you turn it over on downs. Like, what the heck are you doing? Like, I don't know. Like, the commentator says, like, it's a 2-play thing, but why? Just why? And, okay. They punted, or no, they turned it over on downs, and now it's the offense's turn. And this was, honestly, this next play might be one of the ugliest plays I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. Sanders, number 0, quite literally runs into his own lineman. Like, imagine there is the line set out, like, you're the quarterback, right? And then I think you turn to the right, and then you just see your running back just crash into your own lineman, and then there's this like 6'4", like 300-pound guy coming full speed at you, unblocked, and he just hits you. It's just like, bro, what is this? What the heck was this running back thinking? And Sanders just runs into, I think Taylor Martin, is that how you pronounce it? And it's just like terrible execution, and they don't convert the 3rd. It's a punt. That was disgusting. Like, oh my goodness. At least they're up, so like, I can't really say much, but holy, that was not the play. On defense, they do give up a passing interference, but it doesn't matter. They do force a punt. So basically, like, they just keep on forcing these Raiders to punt and punt and punt and punt. And it's just, that's what you want to see if you're, a guy looking at the defense, right? As long as they force the other team to punt, that's a win, right? They're getting off the field quickly. The Raiders just can't stay on the field to save their lives. On offense, the next play, Sanders gets stuffed for a loss, and then there's a check down to get the first thing. There is a dangerous pass by Dalton. It goes incomplete, and they do eventually end up punting. There's actually a lot of possessions in this game. I think both teams like punt it quite often. Not necessarily a bad thing. So on defense now, there is a passing interference committed by the Raiders. So they are 1st and 10, and then they get sacked. So it's like, you're 2nd and 23. It's just, oh my goodness, dude. These Raiders are so, like, pathetic. And, PV gets a sack, and, yeah, it's just like, I mean, they're not converting this. And, okay, on offense, the next play, this is their touchdown play, not touchdown play, but touchdown drive. Deontay Johnson gets it off of wrong covers. Like, they just, I don't know what they were doing. Like, they were trying to, they thought like they had to force him out, but they actually had to force him inwards. The guy guarding him is just slow on it, and he's just completely wide open with a huge yard after the catch. And then Adam Thielen just gets this incredible catch. Like, he's just off. He gets it by his fingertips, but he gets injured from doing it, and it's just like, oh man. I mean, it's a good throw by Dalton too, like, just give him some credit there, but an even more incredible catch by Adam Thielen. Unfortunately, he does seem to be injured, so that's not a good sign. Rest up, brother. So it's 21-7. It's right before the half, so the Raiders kind of try to go down as fast as possible. They don't really have that much time. I think they had only a minute at most. And the Raiders end up missing the field goal, so it's just 21-7. They're up 2 scores. It's a great game. Like, this is exactly what you want if you're, rooting for the Carolina Panthers. Now they just don't have to blow it, and they don't. The defense keeps on rolling. Great tackle by Thompson. The first play of the half, or just in general in that half. I don't know if that was the exact, the first play, but, the defense is doing a great job against the run. Like, they're just stuffing it out. And on offense, on the other hand, Johnson just continues to cook. He turns into Chef Johnson. He gets going, absolutely barbecues the cornerback that's guarding him and also the safeties. I don't know what the heck happened to the Raiders, but, they're not having the greatest game. And they managed to get a field goal. Great. And by this point, honestly, the game is kind of over. Like, I don't know if I should go through every single one, but I'll just highlight a couple pointers. 93 gets a great sack. There's a great discipline from all the pass rushers in this game. Like, they coordinate themselves really well. They close in, they don't let the quarterback escape, and then they just crash all in onto him. Like, Gardner Minshew just never has time to be comfortable in this game. And on offense, they just go up another field goal. It's just up 20. Like, this game is essentially over. And the Raiders just don't have any offense going for them whatsoever. It's horrible. It's a complete dumpster fire. And the defense just gets another 3 now. And it's just, I guess what happens is, like, Johnson gets more yards, Hubbard does stuff, and then Sanders just punches in a TD. And it's just like, at this point, this game is just completely over. It's like the beginning, it's like towards the beginning of the fourth. And it's just like, it doesn't matter what the defense does, as long as they don't give up like 5 touchdowns in like 2 minutes of a span. Like, I'm sure, they could do some crazy witchery, but it doesn't matter. Like, they give up 2 touchdowns after this point, but it's just like, okay, like, they're up like a bajillion points. So you could give up, I don't know, 3 scores even, and it just wouldn't matter, right? So, honestly, this was a great game from the Panthers. Just all around great game. And congrats to Canales for his first win. Great job, head coach. I don't want to doubt you. I hope you're the guy for the job, and you got your first win. That's what matters. So now the analysis, like, what do I think about this game? That's a good question. Well, for one, like I said, I think the defense just came out to play. Like, they really did. Like, they forced the Raiders to go on 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, punt. And the only points they really got, like, they had that one bad coverage early in the game to give up a touchdown. And the rest of the touchdowns just straight up don't matter, because after that point, it's just like, all these defenses are just, doing prevent D. Like, they just don't want to give up like a 70-yard bomb that just gives them like points with like, in 10 seconds, So, they soften up with the defense. They get 2 touchdowns, whatever. It's like the game is over, right? They did their job until the game is over. They pretty much made Gardner Minshew look like washed Jimmy Garoppolo out there. Like, it was a travesty. Like, if I'm Devontae Adams, man, I am smashing my helmet into the ground, because, my lord, this was not the game. And just, Minshew was never comfortable in this game. The defense just did a great job across the board, pass rush, everything. And this time around, unlike last week, where they practically gave up like a full 100 yards worth of penalties, there weren't that many penalties called on them this week. Like, they were completely undisciplined last week, and this week they were super disciplined. So I guess, either Canales or whoever just got them together. They were like, bro, lock the heck in. And they locked in. And they, just had a much cleaner game throughout. On the offensive end, I think Dalton played, a good game. He did. Like, the stats show it, and the eye test shows it. Like, he just didn't, like, I will say, being honest, I do think that a lot of the yards were straight, like, yards after the catch, or just checkdowns that turned into, like, 10-plus yard gains. But there were some genuinely impressive throws, right? So I have to give credit where credit's due. He had a great game. And the biggest thing that I feel is, I mentioned it earlier on, is that, I just think Dalton just releases the ball faster than Bryce Young. He's a little bit taller too, so that kind of helps throwing it over. And he's just faster with his reads. And, it does make sense, because he's an NFL quarterback. He's 35, I think. Yeah, he's been in the league for quite some time, and he has a legitimate NFL experience. So it makes sense. Like, he's able to turn it up still at his age. And now, shout out to Hubbard, the rubber running back. I think he's one of the better players on this team, and he does a pretty good job in the position that he's in, and he had a great game alongside Deontay Johnson. who, was absolutely cooking the defense when he was on the field. Man, I think he did better than Devonte Adams for sure. Like just a great game from him. And I do think Canales had a pretty good game plan this time. He called a pretty good game. Like all the calls that I've seen just made sense for the circumstances. He, there were receivers that seemed to be quite open this time around, and maybe his whatever like he set up, and also right with the penalties, like they managed to clean it up. I think that goes with coaching too, right? And overall, once again, this was an excellent win against the Raiders. Now, I'm just gonna be a tiny bit hater. Like, don't get me wrong though, this win is awesome. But now, a part of me is just a little bit worried about the Bryce Young situation. I'll tell you what, the Raiders aren't a very good team. They're not. Let's just put it out there. Like, it's not like the Panthers just defeated the San Francisco 49ers or like the Chiefs or like the Bengals or any of these top level teams, right? They're beating a team that honestly is quite mediocre. I don't expect the Raiders to be above 500 for the season. And there's also this history of like backup quarterbacks just coming in, looking super amazing, and then just getting absolutely dogpiled once the defense kind of figures it out, right? And it's just, that's the reason why people were so skeptical about like a player like Purdy, just because, he came out of nowhere. He's a third string quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, and like he's playing good for a couple of games, but so did Jake Browning. So did old Joe Flacco. So did Joshua Dobbs. And then what happened? When it, after some time, they sucked. They simply did. The defense has just figured them out. Flacco, I think, had 3 interceptions or something in his playoff game. Just got completely smoked, right? And there's just this history of like backup quarterbacks coming in, looking really amazing for like a stretch of games, and then just completely pooking on the field because like they're just not NFL level quarterbacks, right? You could have an outstanding game, but one outstanding game isn't giving you a contract. It's the full season. And the reason why all these other quarterbacks are so well regarded, right? It's not like Patrick Mahomes like has like one good game. He has a season worth of good games. That's why he's so good. There's the consistency that matters, right? And it's also not like Dalton is going to be like this franchise quarterback for the team. If anything, unironically, Bryce Young has a closer chance of being this franchise quarterback than Dalton ever is going to be. Like, it's just the truth. Because Dalton is old as heck. And he's a backup quarterback for most of, like, he's just a backup quarterback. And because of that, it just feels like a high-risk move, like this benching Bryce Young, putting in Dalton. Because if you didn't believe in Bryce Young before, why not just trade him and try to get another quarterback while his stock isn't so terrible and get some capital out of it? But now that you put in Dalton and like he's had this performance, it just makes Young look horrible. And it's like now his stock is even lower than before. And if you're going to trade him for something, you're getting less of a return. So if I'm thinking in the perspective of the front office or whatever, I'm assuming they're trying to do a good job. I think they're believing in Bryce Young. Like the ownership, I think, says it. It just makes sense from the decisions that they're making. I'm sure that this whole thing is to just try to train Young to like be an NFL level quarterback that's very good, and just to bank on him eventually, and just have this guy sit behind Dalton who has the experience and just to learn from him. But I do think that this might have to weigh on Young a little bit. He's the first overall pick, and he doesn't really have a good situation. Like, let's not change that fact. He could, people are saying like, oh, this guy sucks, blah, blah, blah. That could be true, but it's also true that his situation isn't good. And both of these are not mutually exclusive, right? And I just think that if you're in this guy's perspective, right, let's just try to empathize with him. Imagine you're the first overall pick, you have all this media attention on you, and you just keep on losing and losing and losing and losing. and then eventually you get benched, right? That doesn't feel good, right? A part of you might even feel like, bro, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, it's not like you're giving me that much of an opportunity, right? Like, you might be like, this is kind of unfair. And then to have your backup also play a very good game and win the game with a very, very high touchdown score, that's not going to feel good. And if anything, that might weigh on somebody's confidence. You know, some people, especially in this day and age, they're going to be like, man, am I really built to be an NFL quarterback? I'm sure there are some people that think that way. You know, other people, they'll be like, damn, I got to really work hard now to get better. Like, there are some people like that. But, you know, for a vast majority of people, like, that's going to weigh on you. Like, you have all this pressure as the first overall pick. Now, people are going to be wondering if you're even worth it. And it's just going to, you know, psychologically, it's not the easiest thing, is it? And especially if the Panthers are trying to push Young to be their guy. You need to protect this guy from any of that negativity. That's going to really weigh on somebody. Like, you have to really show that he's the guy. And, you know, something I feel like they could have done is, like, try to insert Young a little bit earlier into the game. Like, I don't know if he even took any snaps, but just have the guy just play. Like, the game is done after a certain point. Like, why not just put him in and try to get a little bit of his confidence, just get some reps going? Why not that? I mean, to be honest, I don't really know. Like, it's not like I'm working with the front office or anything like that. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy the Dalton train. I'm going to enjoy this win because, you know, winning feels awesome. And my hope is just that we keep on building on this and try to make a little bit of noise in what would be a rebuilding year. And, you know, this is Saturday, or now it's Sunday. I made this at Sunday at 2 a.m. And I just realized that we're playing against the Bengals. Oh, man. The freaking Bengals, man.